name is Tom Luby. I'm the operations manager here at Verona Vineyards. First of all, I just want to tell you guys how envious I am that you guys get to have a cool class like this, because there was absolutely nothing like this when I was in college. My training for being an operations manager at a vineyard was very much kind of on the job, on the fly kind of things. Was a big wine drinker. My friends own a winery, kind of spent time with them and kind of learned while I was on the job. So welcome to Verona Vineyards. Enjoy your time. And I'm going to turn things over to Rihanna.
So our vineyard was laid out in about 2004. The first vines were planted in 2005. Our owners actually live in the White House that you guys passed coming in. Their name is Peg and Dan Montgomery. Their original plan was to grow all the grapes and then sell them. It takes about 3 years once you plant a vine for the grapes to be ready to harvest for the first time. In that time, the deal that they had, the contract to sell those grapes, it fell through. The guy they were going to sell to is actually in the military. He got deployed. So they kind of were stuck. They had about 4,000 vines of grapes and nothing to do with them. So our owner, Dan, decided that he was going to become a winemaker. So right now we have 6 different varietals. If you're looking here, you're not going to see any grapes. We're in the middle of our harvest right now, so all the grapes have already been taken back. If you look further over, you'll see the nets. Everything that has a net on it, the grapes are still there. So the nets are for different reasons, keep animals obviously out, a bunch of pesticides as well, but we'll pull those off and harvest those in the next couple of weeks. So we have 6 different varietals. We have Cabernet Franc, Petit Verdot, Riesling, Viognier, Chardonnay, which is very similar to a Chardonnay, and then it's called Dornfelder, which is a pretty rare grape that we grow. So we do everything by hand, which is really fun for the first 10 minutes and then really miserable the next 8 hours. But we're just in the middle of it right now. So we have about 20 people on staff overall, and only about 10 of those people are actually in the vines themselves. So we have a lot of friends that come in, a lot of, just family friends, people that we pay them in food because they like to come out here, or we pay them in the wine, which people prefer that more, I guess. But we just do everything by hand, so it's a little bit slower, but ours will be done in the next couple weeks. So we do have a dairy barn. I'm not sure if Tom mentioned this. So the dairy barn, I'll point it out to you when we're over there, but it's right next to all the stills. But that actually has all the wine. We do make the 6 varietals that we grow here. We make those wines here as well. We are in the process of harvesting, so we have a lot of open containers, a lot of open vats in there. So we're not bringing people in right now, but typically that's what you could see if you came on a tour. So we lean a little bit more towards the Eastern European style varietals, which means basically it's going to be a little more dry, some acidic, some earthiness to it, so it's a little bit different than what you had at Brianza, but hopefully you guys like it. Throughout the winter, throughout the week, we'll do different arts and crafts events, like on Wednesdays. Thursdays we do line dancing. We do a chef's table throughout the summer where he kind of does different meals that way, and then of course we have our big stage out. We do summer concerts all throughout the summer. So like retirement parties, birthday parties, things like that are a little bit easier just because we don't have to shut down the whole place. Our inside holds about 80, and we kind of like to keep about 40 open to the public. In the early days, we did do weddings out here. So when you go in, there's a big sign and you'll see pictures of a wedding that was happening. Because we've kind of expanded and we're pretty busy on the weekends, we can't really shut down the whole place for a wedding because we don't have an outside venue. So I'm trying to say, like Brianza, they can do weddings, but they have a completely different building that they do that in, like a separate space. We don't really have that, so it's not very easy for us to do weddings. We did host a Republican rally, so we had it's called Schickel Pickle Fest, so for Senator Schickel, but he came out here, so we put out a huge tent in this grassy area over here. Governor Bevin was here, a lot of people running on the Republican side all came down, so we can do big things like that are still open to the public, but it's hard to do big private events, like obviously you're not going to want strangers at your wedding. You probably don't care if it's a retirement party to see people you don't know walking around, but for private stuff, it's a little harder to do. So there's 3 wineries within a 5-mile radius right here, and we stay open an hour later. So we kind of see a lot of people that are there for a few hours and then want to come to us, but we're the only one that has meals. So we started out when we first started we didn't have any food at all. You could bring your own. Then we started selling like cheese spreads and crackers, things like that. We had a food truck come in for a few years, but for the past 2 years, we've had our estate bistro inside. So that's kind of a thing that we have up on the other 2 wineries that are around here, is because we can kind of make an experience out of it. I mean, it's fine to go to a winery and do a tasting and then leave, but if you want to spend a few hours somewhere, you're going to have to eat at some point. So that's kind of an advantage that we have. in northern Kentucky, you're not going to find this much open land that you can actually plant vines on. So that's a little thing. And once you go north, there's not any wineries north of us in Kentucky, and just because there's not the land area there. But even in places like Owen County has Elk Creek. Elk Creek's the largest winery in the state of Kentucky, but it's the only one there. And kind of the reason of that is if you look at a map, northern Kentucky, there's a strip that goes through it, and that's all dry counties. So it's really hard. You're going to have a break in between here and Lexington, or here in Georgetown, really. That whole strip is all dry. So Owen County is the only one that can actually have a winery there. A lot of laws had to get passed for that to happen. So that's part of it too, just because in the rural parts of Kentucky, they're not going to be as open to that. So if you lived in a dry county, you could grow your own grapes, make your own wine, and that's fine. You can do that. But the second you go to sell it, it becomes illegal. So depending on where you are, makes it a lot more difficult.
I know that you guys have been stopping at different places today, and one of the great things about working at a winery, especially at Verona Vineyards, is we have a lot of other wineries around us. So right off of this exit, we have 6 different vineyards, and 5 of them have their wineries that go with them. So what's really nice about it is we're really not in competition, because we all focus on different things. So when you guys were at Brianza, it's very much an event center. You know, they put on weddings and they have receptions, things like that, and we don't do weddings here. So if somebody calls us and wants a wedding, we can refer them to Brianza. They grow grapes there, we grow grapes here, but they're completely different kinds. Here we focus primarily on European varietals. So when Rihanna took you guys out to the vineyard, she probably told you that for reds, we grow Cabernet Franc, Petit Verdot, and Dornfelder, all of which are European varietals. For whites, we grow Chardonnay, Viognier, and Riesling. So if you compare that to the other wineries around here, nobody else grows those grapes. So that works out nice too, because we're not really competing, we're all kind of supporting each other. Today we're going to have you guys try 3 different wines that are all grown in Verona. Okay? The first one we're going to try is a Chambourcin. Now most of you have probably never heard of Chambourcin before. A Chambourcin is a North American hybrid. All right, so to explain what I mean by that, I was saying all of our wines are European varietals. A lot of grapes that people grow around here are North American varietals. In other words, they're indigenous to North America. The grapes that we grow here are not. They're all originally from France. And people have brought them over and grow them here now. Chambourcin is one that's indigenous to North America. The reason why people do that is grow those is because they're much more successful crops here. They grow easier because they're used to being here. They're resistant to the diseases that are in North America. Think of like Indians and smallpox, okay? If you were to go to France and pick up a Chardonnay vine and bring it to the United States and plant it, it wouldn't live. Our Chardonnay vines live here only because they are grafted. So the rootstock is North American rootstock, and it's grafted to European vine tops that produce the fruit, okay? The other way around that is to grow the grapes that are indigenous to North America. The Chambourcin is indigenous to North America, but we don't grow it here at our vineyard. Our friends who own Verona Landing, about 5 miles down the road, grow the Chambourcin for us. We go down there, harvest it, bring it back. We make the wine from it, but we can't call it an estate wine because we don't grow the grapes. Okay, so if you ever pick up a bottle of wine and it says estate on it, that means that those grapes were grown at the place where that wine was made. Okay, if you ever look at a bottle of wine and it has a date on it, that's the date of the harvest. Okay, and that means that the vintner had to be there at the harvest. Okay, so most wines, if you go to Kroger liquor store or somewhere and you pull it off the shelf, it doesn't have a date and it doesn't say estate, because usually they're a blend of grapes from all over the place and the vintner wasn't there when they were harvested, so they don't know what the date is. But if you've ever heard somebody talk about a wine like, oh, I really want a 2014 Petit Syrah from Oregon. It's like, really? That sounds pretentious. Does it really matter? Well, 2014 might have been a really good harvest. So maybe it made really good wine. So there's a reason why they would want that specific grape from that specific area, okay? So we're going to try a Chamberson. This Chamberson is a 2017 Chamberson, so that means that was the year of the harvest, was 2017. On the bottle it says Kentucky, because it can't say a state because we didn't grow it, okay? But it at least narrows it down to that these grapes were grown in Kentucky, okay? This wine, it's not sweet, it's a red wine, it's not going to be really sweet, but it doesn't have a lot of tannins on the back end, okay? As a matter of fact, it's going to be very fruit forward, tastes like black cherry, and very light on the back end, not a lot of tannins, so it's not going to be super dry. It's not sweet, but it's not super dry, so it's going to be fruit forward, okay? So we're going to pour this for you. We're going to let you guys enjoy this for a little while. Then I'm going to come back up and we'll do another wine. Same story with that, and then another wine, so we're going to do 3. You should have some crackers on your table to cleanse your palate in between wines, and you should also have a bottle of water on your table to rinse your glass out and to cleanse your palate in between drinks, okay? So I will go ahead and pour some of these for you. Rihanna's pouring some over there. You should have been able to find a very distinct difference between the Petit Verdot and the Chamberson that you tried earlier. The Chamberson was a little inkier, a little thicker. The Petit Verdot was a little bit lighter, but the Petit Verdot probably had more depth of flavor and definitely had more of those blackberry tannins on the back end. Hopefully you were able to pick up that dark plum flavor, that crisp minerality, and those blackberry tannins. All right, so the next wine we're going to move on to is our Cabernet Franc. So in the United States, a lot of people say Cabernet, and they mean Cabernet Sauvignon. 2 completely different grapes. They just have the same first name, okay? The reason why Cabernet Sauvignon is so much more commonly heard of than Cabernet Franc is because they grow Cabernet Sauvignon in California. So big budget wineries who are doing a lot of advertising for their Cab Sauv. Okay, Cab Franc is a great wine though. Cab Franc, have you ever heard of a Bordeaux? Okay, Bordeaux is a region in France, and the wine they make there is called a Bordeaux, and a Bordeaux is actually a blend. It's a blend of Cabernet Franc, Cabernet Sauvignon, Malbec, Merlot, and the Petit Verdot you just tried. Okay, so 2 of the wines in a Bordeaux blend we grow here at Verona Vineyards. What I really like about the Cabernet Franc, I'm a big red wine drinker, but I tend to drink more red wines in the wintertime. Just like beers, I tend to drink more like porters and stouts in the wintertime than I would in the summer. But reds, I tend to drink more in the winter. But in the summer, if I'm grilling a steak or something like that and I want a red wine to go with it, I don't want something that's really heavy. I want something that's kind of light. Cabernet Franc is a very light-bodied red, similar to a Pinot Noir, if you're familiar with Pinot Noir. All right? You'll notice as soon as I pour it that this is going to appear the thinnest, I guess, the most translucent of the 3 wines, okay? But it's going to have the most flavor. Don't ever get confused that the thickness of a wine indicates the flavor, because like that Chamberson was definitely the inkiest, the thickest, but probably has the least flavor of the 3. The Cabernet Franc is going to have a bright raspberry acidity, kind of a peppery bite to it, and a hint of oak and leather in the finish, okay? Now it picks up those oaky notes from the oak barrels that it's aged in, but the Chamberson and the Petit Verdot were also aged in the same oak barrels. This just picks up a little bit more of that American oak flavor than the other 2 did, okay? It's gonna be very light. It's gonna go really well with your meal. So, Verona Vineyards 2017 estate grown Cabernet Franc, all right? That's what you're gonna have with your meal. So, enjoy. So I hope that you guys make a trip back up to Verona again sometime. Like I said, besides us in Brianza, there's also Atwood, Schoolyard, Gunpowder, and Verona Landing. So right here off this exit, there's a lot of different wineries. I don't know if Rihanna told you guys, but a lot of people don't associate Kentucky with grapes. And that's really a shame, because prior to Prohibition, Kentucky was the 3rd largest producer of wine in the United States. They were just a lot of small family wineries, and they couldn't survive Prohibition, so they plowed under their vines and they planted tobacco. So now there's a big push in the agriculture department to get rid of the tobacco farms and plant grapes again. Also, the first commercial winery in the United States was in Kentucky. So Kentucky has a long, rich wine heritage that just is kind of a secret. A lot of people don't know about it.
What was your wine experience before starting this?
Nobody knew anything. Like I said, our son-in-law got reading up on it, got on the internet, taught it 2 nights a week at Wilmington College.
But just for your own enjoyment of wine.
We drank wine, okay? Not because we own the wine, but because we like the wine.
He likes Chardonnay, and I like the red wine.
There's a group that keeps coming here all the time, and then we get a few. We're getting more established, so more people show up, and a lot of them we've never met. It's a great hobby. A lot of work, great hobby.
Yeah.
And I guess that's the best way to put it.
So what's more important, the wine or the hospitality?
I think the hospitality is probably top of the line. If people are not happy, they're not going to drink your wine.
And I go around to the tables, and I said, talk to everybody. I greet them. I ask them to come back. I have never treated anybody bad, and I will never do that. And I enjoy meeting people and talking to them. He'll tell you that. I went around there the night before y'all got here to every table in there.
They all say it's beautiful, okay? That's the biggest comment you get. It's beautiful out here.
Yeah, just look at what's going on over there.
Yeah,
So the
look at the sunset, At our age, we don't have a whole lot of things to look forward to except keep the winery up and beautiful and keep a lot of people happy.
So you said you want to make a success out of it. What does success look like?
Well, I think it's the fact you got to have good years with the grapes to make good wine, and have plenty of your wine in the bottles to keep the people happy with the right wines. And since we've won all those medals, I think our son-in-law makes some awful good wine.